Hello guys and welcome to my channel. This is the first video on this channel where I'll mostly just be ranting about stuff I like, especially music, movies, maybe some video games, and I'll probably make a lot of sillier videos. But for my first video I want to talk about something I love so much, extreme metal. If you're new to the heavier side of music, you've probably heard a lot of terms being thrown around preceding the word metal. Stuff like new, thrash, groove. But today I wanted to talk about two particularly concerning subgenres of metal, death metal and black metal. Before we get into the whole verses part of this video, I want to go over a quick overview of these genres. Nothing too crazy in depth, just so I have an opportunity to engagement farm off of elitists who know more than me in the comments. Death metal was essentially birthed out of a bunch of kids in the swamps of Florida who heard the heavier, more abrasive side of thrash, especially Slayer, and said just how extreme can we make this whole thing. Your major bands of early or old school death metal, if you will, are Death, Deicide, Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Pestilence, Autopsy, and bands like that. Other bands like Carcass and Suffocation taking the formula and experimenting, Carcass playing a role in forming melodic death metal, and Suffocation being particularly influential in the formation of brutal death metal. And from here, most other death metal subgenres can just be seen as brutal death metal becoming more and more abrasive and ape-brained, with maybe some slight sonic differences. Black metal, from my understanding, is less of a straight line from one genre to another, and is kind of like a hodgepodge of like a bunch of different stuff. Is that how you use the word hodgepodge? Pretty much all extreme metal in the 80s was influenced by Venom in some way, but I think it's definitely more apparent in black metal. They even released an album called Black Metal and used a lot of satanic imagery and lyricism, and that when combined with other bands like Merciful Fate and Bathory, all adding to the mix, kind of culminate into black metal. So yeah, all this came to form second wave black metal, which is the bands you might be thinking about, such as Mayhem, Darkthrone, Immortal, Emperor, Bertram, and we'll be talking about the black metal offshoots a bit later. Now that we've laid the groundwork, I'm going to explain how we'll be comparing these two beasts. We're going to be comparing them in 6 categories, which are quality of the music, themes, technicality, subgenres, influence, album art, and a final bonus round because we need a winner. For the first round, we're going to be talking about the actual quality of the music, which is more rich to listen to, I guess. And while yes, this is subjective, I do think there's a lot more to be explored when it comes to death metal. The sound of death metal is a lot more varied. There's more vocal styles, like if you were to compare the vocals on The Sound of Perseverance, sung by Chuck Schuldiner, like a lot of brutal death metal vocals, it's pretty varied. And like Lordworm with a 30-second scream on open face surgery, I don't think you could find a black metal singer who can do that. When it comes to the drumming, I do think there's more to be had with death metal fills. They are way more interesting. And yes, while both genres use blast beats quite a bit, I do think death metal gets way more crude. Guitars, yes, black can get very, very atmospheric, I'll give it that, which is a sound I don't really hear anywhere else in music. But like, come on, listen to any tech death album for like a Necrovagus solo. It's over. As for the bass, I don't think I've heard the bass in a black metal song, while in death metal, I do hear a lot of cooler like bass licks, especially in tech death. The score is 0 to 1 death metal. Now we will talk about the themes of the music, and this one is going to be black metal, hands down. Not to say that death metal can't be super creative with its themes. Carcass loves their medical imagery, lots of bands sing about very complex and philosophical ideas. Death has a lot of good songs that fall into that category. But once you get past like the surface level of death metal, 99% of the songs are just about killing people. It's like if you tried to give a snuff film a soundtrack, it would just be slam. Yes, a lot of bands do that of humor and to be silly, but black metal definitely does one-up death in this category. Listen to like any atmospheric black metal song, it is way more thematically beautiful, and this extends better into the actual instrumentality like the guitars, which literally make you feel like you are freezing to death. There's tons of more cool themes you can find in black metal. Satanism, of course, suicide, depression, nihilism, religious hypocrisy, political opinions, if you want to call it that. Like themes of folk black metal nature, and even some oddly just fun music when you listen to like Dungeon and Keller synth. 1-to-1 tied. Technicality. And yeah, I don't have much to say on this one. Both can have very impressive instrumentality, but like, come on. Okay, so subgenres. Black metal gets very, very creative with this subgenres. Bestial black metal, blackened thrash, depressive suicidal black metal, DSBM, black gaze, war metal, ritualistic black metal, folk black metal, atmospheric black metal, dungeon synth. A lot of these genres you can tell the difference in, and I appreciate black metal because if you don't like the main bands, like, you know, the true Norwegian sound, there's still something out there for you. And a lot of these genres take something really abrasive and inaccessible and make it very beautiful. In the case of black gaze and DSBM, making it pretty easy to get into. And if you do like the aggression of it, then you got stuff like war metal. Death metal, I don't really think this applies. If I were to introduce someone to any subgenre of death metal and they didn't like it, they wouldn't like any other subgenre of death metal. A lot of differences in death metal subgenres are just it was more technical or melodic or heavier, but to the majority of even metal listeners, you'd never be able to tell the difference unless someone pointed out to you. Real quick, by influence, I'm referring to like the impact a genre of music has on the rest of the landscape of music or culture. And side note here, I live in America and not in the freezing cold regions of Europe, but I definitely hear a lot more about death metal. But this is my video, so I can say whatever I want. But I will say, there is a reason death metal is like a culturally known term and black metal is. Also, another detail I'd like to add is, I've heard this in like a YouTube video once, and then I googled it, which is enough research in my book for me to pass it off as fact. But apparently death metal helped push the envelope in music production, which some of those techniques and technology or whatever is still used today, so whatever. Album art. I understand that like art styles can be a personal preference, but I'm gonna put the ball in your court for a second. Go on Spotify and look up a gore grind or like a slam playlist and look at the album covers. Wait, never mind, don't do that. Just know it's some pretty gnarly stuff. Like, yeah, it's cool, but come on. Now look up like an atmospheric black metal playlist, and a lot of the art is gonna be very beautifully drawn pieces and like sick looking paintings and stuff. Like, there's a place for both styles of artwork, but I do think I'm gonna have to give this point to black metal. We're tied, 3-3. Now onto the final bonus round. I'm gonna title this category Art versus Artists. Okay, now that we know the title, I think we know how this video is going to end. In the description of the video, I'll link a page that lists black metal bands and whether or not they are problematic or sketchy, and a lot of the bands just have the word Nazi next to them. There's a whole movie, you know, all the crazy mayhem stuff that happened, the murders, the burnings. And now, compare all these terrible black metal stories to like the drummer of Obituary, Donald Tardy, who helps stray kittens, like just in his free time. Like, bro, come on. And like Corpse Grinder, I know it's a funny name, but he like wins or buys plushies and gives them away to little kids. Like, that's so cool. And like Chuck Schuldiner seeming like the nicest person ever in like every interview you've seen of him. I mean, there's a pretty clear difference here. A lot of people are going to be mad at this and think that it's like an unfair category, but I don't really care. This is my video. Call me a poser in the comments or something. But I do feel like this should be brought up when comparing black metal to any subgenre of music, because at the end of the day, it's a big reason why black metal is popular at all. Well, there you have it, posers. Death metal wins, Nazis lose. Have a great night. Bye.